AFC South. Who do I think is going to place where? Very interesting division this year. Oh, man. You've got some, teams that are in rebuild mode, and you have some teams that are definitely in competition mode. So I think this is an interesting division. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch some of these teams go at it. One being in my fourth place spot, who do I got? Jacksonville Jaguars. New head coach Doug Peterson out there. I know Doug Peterson very well as an Eagles fan. Won a Super Bowl with the team. I think he's a good coach. I mean, I just think he definitely overstayed his welcome in Philly, and his play calling was just pretty bland for the most part towards the end of his tenure. So, I mean, that was kind of disappointing to see. But, if he can bring some new schemes, and he's been cooking up some stuff in the kitchen for this team, I think it could be interesting. But, I mean, frankly, I've just never been that impressed with Doug Peterson in that regard. But, again, we'll see what happens. Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback, he's a interesting guy. Never been the super high on him in terms of an NFL quarterback, but oh my God, I threw it right to him. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, he's the quarterback. I mean, defensively, the team is not fantastic, not very exciting, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty low on the Jags this year, but I don't think I'm the only one that is. They have not been great. But again, we'll see what happens. As long as they move in the right direction, it could be, just another one of these kind of years where they got to figure stuff out. But upwards wins for me. I couldn't see them winning more than 8 or 9 games, if I'm being honest. That'd be a success if they do. Oh my God. I may need to play man coverage, but because the zone is just not working. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, Jaguars though. I couldn't see them winning more than 8 or 9 games at most. Low end, 2, 3. I'd say 2 or 3 games. I'm being dead ass. Like, I don't like this team in that regard, but yeah, I mean, low end 2 to 3 games, high end 8 or 9 games for Jacksonville. I mean, just not a lot to say on that team, We'll see what happens. They're definitely a work in progress, so I definitely think they're going to be the bottom of the barrel of the AFC South. Third place will be, in my opinion, the Houston Texans. I do think they're moving in the right direction as opposed to Jacksonville, where they're kind of in no man's land and just went through regime change. This team has also been through a lot over the past couple of years. I mean, the Bill O'Brien situation is over. The Deshaun Watson situation is over. And it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of move beyond that and compete. And Davis Mills seems interesting. I like to see more from him this year. Happy we're getting a little bit more from Davis Mills. The receiving core is interesting. Defensively, they're usually pretty solid. So we'll see what happens with the Texans this year. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be a competitor on par with the other couple of teams in this league. I mean, in this division. But with that being said, I mean, there's definitely things to be interested in, and definitely reasons to be excited if you're in the AFC South for the Houston Texans. But yeah, I mean, I'm just not super sold on them this season. But I think in a couple of years, if Davis Mills really works out and the defense continues to improve, I think this team could be really fun. Now time for the team that I think is going to be... Oh, wait. That's right. I got to get through records. High end for the Texans, 10 games. I think if they win 10 games, it's a serious success for them. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I think, if everything goes right for them, they'll win 10, maybe 11 games, which would be very crazy. But crazier things have happened. So, we'll see what happens. In terms of low end, they could really blow up and win 3 or 4 games this year. I think they're probably going to be somewhere in between those two, but go. But again, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Texans. So high end 10 games, low end 3 games. Now, for the team I think is going to be in second place in this division, the Tennessee Titans. I know this is kind of a strange take because of how good they were last year, but I think that they've gotten worse. The receiving core is a big question mark for me. Tannehill's a big question mark for me. The run game's going to be fantastic. We know that for sure. The run game is going to be great. But what else do they got? I mean, defensively, they're good, and I think they'll be good defensively. But, my question is really just, what is this team going to bring in terms of passing the football in a pass-heavy league that we're in? Oh, my goodness! Not reading well right now. So I'm trying to go through my head right now, and I'm thinking instead of reading. And one was open there too. But Paris Campbell. But yeah, I mean Tennessee. I'm not super high on them this year. I'm really not. I think that they'll be good. I think that they could definitely make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be as solid as they were last year. And I mean, I guess maybe that's. I'll be happy to eat my words if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm not super high on the Titans this year. But I think if their run game is just solid enough, they can get by with that. But again, that's a big if, and I don't know. I mean, I just think the lack of a pass game. I don't love Ryan Tannehill, but again, crazier things have happened, so we'll see what happens. As for the Titans high end, 13. I could see them winning 13 games. I think that's what they won last year. 13, maybe 14 games. I'll say 14 for the high end. Low end, like 5 or 6, and that's if this just completely fails. Which I mean, I don't think is crazy to say that, but again, I'm not super sold that they'll be winning 14 games this year. But if it happens, it happens. If they really come out and just shock the world. Like I said, crazier stuff has happened, so. But, yeah, that's the Titans, and that leaves my number 1 team in this division. I think it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. I really like this team. They have a good offensive line. The receiving core is not great, but is showing promise. I mean, Matt Ryan is a really competent quarterback. Oh! The receiving core plays like this, they're not going to make it. And defensively, I think their defensive back core is really interesting. Their pass rush is decent. Obviously, Darius Leonard, who I've talked about already in this game, is fantastic. So, I mean, let's see what happens with this Colts team. I could see them really running with this division and kind of shocking people. Not played well. But, yeah, I mean, high end for the Colts. I could see them winning, 13 games, 12 games. But the reason I put them over the Titans is because I think their low end is definitely better. I could see this team really winning at the 7 or 8 games this season regardless. That's if they play really bad. Just because defensively they're stronger, I think, than Tennessee is. And definitely the pass game will be a lot more interesting this year. I just think they're like one really good weapon away from being a really good passing team. So I'm pretty high on the Colts, man. I think they're going to be fun this year. Fun to watch. So we'll see what happens with it. But, yeah, I have not been I think it's going to be kind of a dogfight, especially down the stretch. And I think it's going to be like last year where it's going to be a 1 or 2 games that kind of separates everybody in terms of maybe getting a wild card spot for both the teams in this division. But, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the AFC South. So for me, it's gonna be Jaguars in the last place spot, then Houston, then Tennessee, and then in first place, the Indianapolis Colts. That's my prediction. AFC South.